Welcome to another episode of Purchase to Profits. I'm Seth Ferguson. Our guest today was born and raised in a small town in Saskatchewan. At the age of 21, he has been nicknamed the Young Gun for his ability to take on ventures that people his age would never have done before. He has a burning desire to create wealth through real estate. Tyler Hassman is the co-founder and president of M&H Real Estate Investments and AHGC International. He focuses much of his time sharing his story as an entrepreneur to provide value and inspire others in his age group to take action and pursue what they are passionate about. Tyler, welcome to Purchase to Profits. It's great to have you on the show.
Thank you so much for having me on. I'm excited.
Yeah, you are the youngest guest we've had on, so I'm really excited to hear what you are all about.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah, so let's start off with your real estate goals. You want to take on the Big Apple at some point. So what's your real estate goals all about?
Yeah, no, most definitely. I still have yet to go to New York. So it's kind of funny how that's like my big goal, taking on the Big Apple, but more so I use it as a metaphor. Like I want to take on big cities, big projects, big everything, right? Because I was born and raised, small town Saskatchewan, for those of you that don't know, it's prairies, farmers, like really small stuff. So, you see this big stuff all the time, but, it's almost like that's out of reach. So, my goals have always been, I've always wanted to have, just a ton of property in my portfolio globally. I can go wherever I want, whenever I want. And that's really the goal, is to go to that city over there, go live there for a little bit, go to the other city, have properties there, like just be globally, have a global real estate company and in all the major big cities. So that's my big real estate goal for sure.
For sure. So do you break it down in terms of, I want to own so much dollar volume, or I want to have so many units, or I want to have so much, free cash flow? Like, how do you break down your goals?
Yeah. So I used to do that. So what happened was I would be like, no, I want to own $10 million this year. I want to buy 10 million this year, or I want to, in 10 years own $1 billion in real estate. I used to do that. Right. But then what happened was, I'd then break it down, the one thing, Gary Keller, you break down those goals. But then what I found is that for me, it's harder for me to picture those goals or really get inspired by those goals when it's just a number. You know what I mean? So now I'm more so focused on the income side of things, right? So I look at how much money I want to personally make, and then I see how much real estate I'm going to have to then buy. So I kind of work it backwards because, there's times where, you can close on millions and millions of dollars in real estate, but at the end of the day, you might not be getting a bunch of money. If it's not a good asset, if it's not cash flowing, or, the market's not good, you can say, hey, I've got 20 million in real estate, but you might be making nothing. So, or not nothing, but you know what I mean? I have changed my way of thinking to how much money I want to personally make, and then how much real estate am I going to have to buy to get that. And there's so many different ways, in real estate. I mean, I'm more so, I'll do anything, I do, Airbnb, vacation rentals, luxury vacation rentals, multifamily, fix and flip, getting into wholesaling, tax deeds, tax liens, I do everything. So when it comes down to, like, I just love real estate in general. So when it comes down to owning a certain amount of real estate, I just go by how much money I actually want to be producing for myself.
Gotcha. So how much more money do you have to add to your bottom line this year to hit your goal?
A lot. Let's put it that way. Oh yeah, I got massive goals. Like I'm all about like Grant Cardone, you know what I mean? Where it's 10x, yeah, 10x, 10x, 10x. So it's a significant amount. But at the end of the day, whenever I have these big goals and they scare me, and I'm like, well, how am I supposed to make that much money? It then makes me make these bigger steps. You know what I mean? Where if I'm like, you know what, I want to make an extra $10,000 per month. I'm not going to be like, okay, where's, there's a hood house or, ghetto house that can fix and flip and make, I don't know, $40,000. I'm like, no. I need to find an apartment building that I can first off make some big money on the acquisition, the refinance right at the start, refurbish it, and then get a mortgage on it. And then I have that for long term to then create more money. You know what I mean? Yeah. So when I have those bigger goals, it inspires me to work on bigger projects and more strategic projects as well. And, I'd rather fall short on a goal of, let's say, $100,000 a month and fall short and only be like 50,000 rather than, achieve a $10,000 a month goal. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. So let me ask you this. So you're 21 now, right?
22, just in November.
22.
22.
All right. So the key thing is you're in the States, you're legal in the States. So that's a
Yes.
positive. Um, who got you introduced to real estate at
Yeah.
such a young age?
Yeah. So it's funny. I got myself introduced into real estate, and it was with my one of my business partners, and it was, I think we were 17 at the time, and we were sitting. I've always known about real estate. I've always been in business entrepreneurship my whole life, ever since I was like 10 years old. I always just loved it. So then I was always like selling t-shirts, I was always like doing some entrepreneurial things. And then I got to a point where I'm like, hey, all these big business owners and billionaires, they all do real estate. Or real estate, it's like that's the big man's business. So then I was like, it was always in the back of my mind. And then one day me and my business partner were sitting down and sitting there at a coffee shop, 17 years old. I was selling cars at the time. And then we're like, okay, what are some ways we can make some money and start a business? And we were just Googling it. And then like real estate kept on popping up. One of the best ways to make money is real estate. One of the best businesses to get into is real estate, buy real assets. So then just decided to get into real estate. Let's put it that way. It's kind of, I wish it was something like cooler. Like, I met this person and they're like, hey, you should learn real estate. But no, it was like a Google search.
Yeah, no, that's great. Cause I think when I think back to when I was, 17, 18, all the way up to 21, you're more interested in how many dates you're going on than how many properties you can acquire. So
absolutely, man. I still struggle with that. It's actually hilarious. Even actually down here right now, I'm in Phoenix picking up some properties with my other business partner, Austin. And it's funny, because there's times where, he's got his girlfriend, and there's times where, we're working at night or something. He's like, hey, I got to take this call. And I'm like, whoa. No, we're on clock right now. We're hustling here. Like, there ain't no time for that. I'm like, so it's funny. Even though I still do all this real estate, I still am a little bit like a normal 22-year-old. Just a little bit, though. Just a little bit.
Well, take it from somebody 10 years older than you, build up your portfolio and your dates will come to you. So.
Exactly. I 100% agree on that. And you don't got to work for it. You know what I mean? You already got the real estate, then the ladies will just come to you.
For sure. So, do you have any strategies or rituals that you do every day to kind of keep your goal top of mind and keep you hungry?
Oh yeah, I do a miracle morning. So the miracle morning for me it's like a morning routine. Many people know the miracle morning, Hal Elrod, or just a simple morning routine. That is my everything because, right away I start working out. I do my workout, do my exercising, and then I do my meditation, journaling, reflecting, goal setting, visualizing, and then I do my reading. So all in there, the whole time I'm like thinking about the day, thinking about what I need to get done, what goals I need to get hit, what I need to accomplish. I think about the week. When I'm journaling, I think about how did I do yesterday? And the whole time I'm ingraining and visioning while I'm working out that whole morning, every morning. I'm visualizing where I need to be and where I need to go there. You know what I mean? So, and I do that just in the morning. Like, you will not see me overview like my daily goals and weekly goals for like business and stuff. Yeah, you'll see that me go over that during the day. But for like my vision, where I really need to work towards and setting new goals, it's all done in the morning for me. And I like that because in the morning, like, a lot of people are like, oh, I'm not a morning person. That's just a lazy excuse you're telling yourself. I used to always say that too. I'm not a morning person until I just started waking up earlier. And still there's days where I don't want to wake up early. But in the morning, there's no distractions. I'm up right at 5:30. I'm at the gym by 5:40. And by the time I don't hit the office until like 8. So I've got like 3-4 hours, 3.5 hours, whatever you want to say, 3.5, 4, almost 4 hours to just work on myself, have no distractions. I don't got to answer no phone calls, don't answer no emails. And a lot of people actually that I work with don't start until 9. So I got lots of time before people are calling me, people are doing anything. So it's my time. I get to focus and get really aligned and grounded for the day and everything. So that's huge for me. And the biggest thing is too, to stay consistent. I work every day because what I do, I love to do, and I'm passionate about it. And it's a lifestyle rather than just a job. And one of my mentors always told me that you're not going to be successful in business until you make your business your lifestyle. So I never get off track. I'm always ahead of the game. Like yesterday, it was a Sunday. I did work in the morning, then went golfing, did some more work, had a couple webinars, had another podcast interview. Then I went out and had some drinks with one of my friends. I still do stuff like that. But at the end of the day, I'm always working every day because it's my life. So that actually helps me stay aligned with my goals each and every day, each hour, each minute.
Yeah. You mentioned mentors. How important has it been for you in your business growth to have a mentor in the picture?
Huge. Oh, it's everything. If I didn't have a coach and mentor ever, I wouldn't be here right now. I wouldn't be anywhere because the biggest thing is I spend a lot of money. In the past like 3.5, 4 years, I've been doing this since I left high school. I probably spent, like $150,000 on coaches and mentors, and the return I got on that's ridiculous. Like you can't even put a price on that. And, a lot of people ask me, they're like, you're so young, though, you just got lucky. It's like, no, I didn't get lucky. It just so happens that the people that back me are experts at this, have been doing it for 20, 30 years and have a bunch of money and are very successful at doing it. And then I paid them to learn from them. So I learned from the mistakes they already made. So I don't have to necessarily make those mistakes. I mean, sometimes the mistakes come up, you're gonna make no matter what, but I mitigate how many mistakes I can make so that I can excel instead of taking, I always say that if you're going by yourself, it might take you 10, 20 years to get to where I am right now. But if you hire a coach and mentor, it's already there, then they can take you and just grab your hand and pull you up, right? But it's going to cost money, right? It's going to cost money. And I mean, you got to pay that money. But at the end of the day, when you invest in yourself, that's the number one thing first, right? You got to invest in yourself before you do anything, because you're going to get it. The thing is, whenever somebody tells me they don't want to spend money on personal development, get a coach, a mentor, anything like that, that goes to show me that person is not committed and they're not a hard worker. Because me, I'll dump tens of thousands, literally I've dumped hundreds of $1,000s into an investment into myself because I know I'm going to get one hell of a return, because I know I'm going to put what I learned to work, right? And that's the biggest thing. It's putting money into yourself and growing. It's personal development, everything. It's huge. If you don't have a coach or mentor, you need to go get one right now. And if you're one of those people that think it's a waste of money or some kind of scam, like getting taught by people, or like, why would they charge or why would they coach and mentor and help other people in charge, but they already make all this money? You know what I mean? Like those kind of people, you're never going to get anywhere. Yeah. You got to have that growth mindset, And the biggest thing is too, is even my mentors, they make tons of money. Why on earth would they want my like $10,000 per year? Why would they want my $50,000 per year? It's because their time is valuable. And the thing is that they are on a whole nother level that if they just charge free or don't charge enough money, they're not going to get the type of people or the level of people that they want to deal with and that can take what they learn and put it to the max, right? Let's put it this way. If say somebody just gave you the keys to a brand new Mercedes, right? And you're driving it and they're like, here you go, it's a free car. And you get a couple dings and all this and that. You're not going to care, right? You're like, whatever, it was free. Right? You don't really care about the car. You're not going to clean it. You're not going to do anything like that. Not get it maintenance. Or if you worked like for 5 years and dropped $100,000 on that car and you put blood, sweat, and tears into it and you have money invested into it, damn right. So you're going to make sure that thing's parked in the garage. You're going to get cleaned every day. You're going to make sure it's all well taken care of. Same goes for personal development and growth as well. So to answer that, very important.
And I think about back to when I first started in my early 20s in real estate. Age always comes up sometimes as an objection. And I think by having a mentor on your team working with you, that really helps you eliminate that objection because you've got that experience behind you as well.
Oh, that's so huge. I use that all the time back in the day. Well, I still use it to this day, actually. I'm always like, well, do you know what? Hey, listen to me. I might be inexperienced. I might have just started out. I may be young, but guess what? I have somebody on my team, so-and-so, whatever, say their name, and then be like, they have 30 years of experience in real estate. This is their proven track record, and they're backing me right now. If you want, you can even have a consultation call with them and talk to them about me and the deal I'm working on right now. Yeah. It's huge, like huge, 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 huge.
Yeah, and that just doesn't have to apply to somebody who's young. Somebody breaking into real estate, let's say in their 40s, 30s, 40s, 50s, they can use that as well. It's all about building that team to add credibility to you and help you along your path.
Absolutely, 100% agree with you on that.
So, do you have you had any ideas along your path so far where you thought, yeah, for sure, this is going to work out really well, and it tanked?
Absolutely. Yeah. Oh, 110%. I had, there was a couple of deals I was working on, big apartment buildings, big apartment buildings. And there was deals where, you're working with certain people and, you think everything's good. Then all of a sudden something goes wrong in the partnership and everything crumbles apart. Something that, like at the time, me and my business partner, we put blood, sweat, and tears into this deal. It was like a full year working on this deal, about to like get everything wrapped up. had a fallout with one of the partners that was super unexpected. And then all of a sudden we're left with nothing. We're like, oh, you know what I mean? And then, so yeah, absolutely. That was a big one. And then, that's really about, that was really the biggest one. And then like, there's another one, where one of our fix and flips, it's just a hard time selling it right now. But I mean, I feel like every person that does fix and flip goes through times where it's not like it's been on the market for a year. It's only been like 3 months, but we're already 4 months behind schedule. So now we're like 7 months behind schedule, and I want to get that money out of there. Right. Yeah. So give back to the investor, roll into another deal. So that's just one of those things. But other than that, I would say it was that one deal, just, with a fallout with one of the partners, and then everything just crumbling apart.
Yeah. So let's talk about that for a little bit. So have you changed how you vet your partners or structure your agreements based on that one issue?
Yes, absolutely. The biggest thing that I do is when I'm picking partners, I make sure I wouldn't ask other people, or not do a background check, but I would hear other things about, like, why this person doesn't work with these people anymore. Let's put it that way. Right. And then I would just be like, oh, like something, they just don't work together no more. And then once obviously I had a fallout, then all of a sudden I heard about other fallouts and stuff too. The same thing that happened. I'm like, oh, you know what I mean? So now when I'm picking partners, I go and see, hey, who else have you worked with who else have you previously worked with? If you did have a fallout, what happened? And then even contact that person and say, hey, what happened? I'm not the person taking sides. I just want to know exactly what happened, hear it from both sides, and just do a little bit more background checks in that, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? When it comes down to picking partners and all that, and I mean, it's nothing too crazy, but it's just one of those things that you want to make sure you do background checks on all people you want to work with. Right. Yeah. So I would say that do background checks.
Yeah. And real estate still, like, it seems really big, but it's still a pretty small world. So you always have those points of connection between everybody involved.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's one of the biggest things, you know what I mean? And that goes to show too, you want to make sure that you always protect yourself and have a good reputation yourself. Right. Because I mean, the real estate industry, like you said, small, especially in the market, like back home in Saskatchewan, that's so small. You burn somebody bad once, you're getting out there. Right. And, so you got to be super careful. You got to be super caring as well. Right. There's been a lot of times where me and my business partner, Bailey, on a lot of our deals, we would take a cut, like a pay cut almost, basically, or we would put extra hours in and literally lose some money from us, max out cars and everything, because I want to keep my reputation that's really, really good with my investors when something bad happened that was, I could have maybe done something better on, you know what I mean? Yeah. So keeping your reputation is absolutely huge. And a big part of that goes back to who are you working with as well? Because if you're working with the wrong people and you're thinking, yeah, these people are great, this and that, next thing you know, other people can be like, well, this is what this person did before, and now you're associated with that person. You know what I mean? So you got to really be careful on who you are working with and being connected with, for sure. Absolutely.
Yeah. And that's the thing that comes up. And, I could be talking to a guy who owns, let's say, 500 million, 750 million worth of real estate. The theme of people always comes up. The people come first, and then the deals and all that stuff comes after.
Yes. Oh, if you put money first, and it's a recipe for disaster. You got to put the people first. And if you don't, it's not going to last long. I know people that they put the money first, and for the next year or 2 or 3 years, it's like all this money, everybody's investing with them. It's all going good. And then all of a sudden, boom, actual reality hits, right? The numbers that they said are not adding up, and just big things like that. And that's how it all crashes and burns. And for anybody listening or watching to find that out, look at that person. Are their clients reoccurring, or are they always new clients? And then those old clients they never hear about? You know what I mean? Yeah. So I like, when I'm working with people, I like to see, okay, who are some of your investors? How long have they been working with you? Or, like, even if it's a coach or a mentor, I'm like, who is your oldest client? I want to talk to them and get a referral. If they're like, oh, I've been coaching for 5 years, and, I can give you a referral from this one person that's been in my program for 6 months. I'd be like, no, what about, like, since day one? And they'll be like, if they say no, it's like, well, then what happened? You know what I mean? If it's always new people, and the old people are falling off, there's got to be a reason. There's got to be a pattern why that's happening. And even if those old clients still aren't with them, say, I would still like to call them and say they were still on good paths. They might be like, hey, do you know what? No, it's just I grew out of it. Or, I went to work with somebody else, whatever. It's still good. Even me, I've only been at it for 2.5, 3 years. My first clients, absolutely call them up. My first coaching client that I've had, call them up right now. My first investor, call them up right now. Absolutely. Some of them have moved on to other coaches and stuff, but still, you can call them. They're going to say it was great. They just moved on because they now grew onto another path. They wanted to go down another path. So that's another thing. Absolutely. And that goes back into, your image getting out there. You know what I mean? What goes around comes around, for sure. It's an old cliche saying, but it's so true.
Yeah. So let's talk about a deal. Is there one deal that's really the keystone deal, or the deal that's moved you the furthest towards your goal? That stands out?
Yes, absolutely. It was the first deal I ever did. A 12-unit building, $1.525 million, brand new. And the biggest part about that and why it's the best deal is it's not the one we made the most money on, but it's the one that is like pushed and started everything, right? Because it started the portfolio first off. It was the first ever property I got ever. I was in my parents' basement, didn't have a credit card, I had no money, and I got that building. So that was like the biggest thing. And then all of a sudden that kind of started like, oh my God, he's got, him and his business, like basically me and my business partner did it. And like, everybody's like, wow. And people started believing in us. And then kind of started a fiasco, got nominated for an award. And then it just kind of was like, boom, you know what I mean? So when the next deal came up, people were like, wow, I want to send it to them because they're closing out deals. They're actually doing it. Where before it was kind of like, oh, these young guys, like, they got big dreams and stuff. But like once we close that deal, it's like, hey, we're official.
Yeah. So was that deal in Regina? Whereabouts was it?
Yeah, it's in a town called Moosomin, Saskatchewan. It's a small town between Regina and Winnipeg. Yeah. So out there, it's it's a big small town. Let's put it that way. Big Saskatchewan small town. And I own some other buildings out in the area too. There's a lot of mining that goes on, hospitals, pipeline work, and just some really good stuff out there. So we're super happy with that investment. It's phenomenal out there. So I'm super happy we made that choice and that decision out there. So most definitely I don't miss the cold though. I don't miss the cold. I'm down south now, but yeah, no, it's a great place.
Yeah. So how'd you find it? Like, was it through a broker, or did you contact the seller directly?
Yeah, it was from networking. So I just go to networking events and I would tell everybody, hey, I want to buy a building. I'm ready to buy a building, yada, yada, yada. Yeah. And then sure enough, one person was at the event and it was like, hey, you know what? I know of a building. And then what happened was that person, actually, we've done tons of, basically every deal I've done with this guy. And he knows of this company that built these condos that wanted to sell them, then they couldn't. So now it's apartments for rent. And he knew them, and it was like basically they were going bankrupt or whatever was going on. So then he got access to the buildings and then was firing them off to us. So that's kind of how that happened. So it was networking, off-market deals, telling everybody, hey, I want a building. Let's go. And then I bought the same building down the street about like 6 months after I bought that one. And there was an old farmer, elderly farmer couple. And they're retired. And they bought that building because it was more so like for the legacy. You know what I mean? They have all this other real estate. They got the farm. They wanted to buy that building. And it would just be another asset they can hand down to the family like way later on. It's another passive income. But like it was more than what they bargained for, as in the sense of, I mean, they're very good business people, but it was a lot of more work than what they thought they would have to put in, right? And they're at the point where they didn't want to put the work in, right? They want it to all be passive because they have commercial real estate where you buy commercial real estate, you never hear from those businesses, right? They sign 10-year leases sometimes. Yeah. Where in this area, it's like monthly, it's like monthly leases. It's a quick turnaround, so it's a lot of work. So then they actually, the lady called me up and was like, "Hey, you own the building down the street, don't you?" And I was like, "Oh my God, I'm getting in trouble. What did I do now?" And she's like, "Do you want to buy my building?" And I said, "Absolutely." And then met out with her the next day and then bought it.
That's awesome. So how'd you, so you were still starting out at that point, right? So like, how'd you get your financing arranged? Like, did you have any challenges in securing financing?
Absolutely. Well, a little bit. Yeah. So, we have obviously investors' money, I don't have that money. It's all investors' money. And then the only issue is on our first deal. We're like, oh, we got the investors' money. The bank's like, yeah, no, the net worth's there. Everything's there because you got me and Bailey, my business partner, we had nothing. We're 17, right? And they're like, well, you guys don't really have anything, but they go off everybody that's a part of the deal. So my investors, they looked at the investors, like, oh yeah, you guys are fine, except nobody has any real estate experience. And we're like, oh no. And what the investors like, well, we have our personal home, this and that. And the bank's like, no. We're going to give you $1 million loan, $1.2 million loan, I think it was. You guys got to have experience with running these buildings. And then all I did though, since I'm good at networking and, I have a good connections with a lot of people and I love to talk and go for coffee, there was a guy named George who I love to this day. If it wasn't for George, I would not be here right now. And I still work with that guy. And I still, whenever I get investor leads or anything back home, I send it right to him. George is awesome. He helped us out where we're like, hey, George, we're stuck in this pickle. What do we do? And he's like, well, I'll sign on. So we gave him a little better percentage, obviously worked out a deal, and then he just signed on for the mortgage. Boom, done, because he brought a lot of experience. Yeah. So that's the thing, you're not going to get anywhere if you just work by yourself. And there's a lot of people, whether it's egotistic or they're like, oh, I'm not giving up shares for that. You're never going to get anywhere. That's why I was able to scale up so quick. And that's why still to this day, I'm able to do so much because I look at the bigger picture. I know I'm not going to get rich off that one deal. So if I got to take a cut, I'm going to lose some money here and there, and I see that there's ways to grow off that, I'm going to do it. You know what I mean? And that's where it's got me here today, where if you're a penny pincher, you're not going to get anywhere. In certain areas, yeah, you're looking at your quarterly reports on your building. Yeah, find out ways to save money. But when it's putting a deal together and growing and dealing with bigger people, you're going to you got to get off your high horse. There's even been times where we're working on a deal or working on a project and I know I should be getting more, but I see the big outcome from it is going to be much bigger than that short-term pay, right? So then I'm willing to give up and take more cuts, if you want to say that, and work it out that way. That's just the way I think, for sure.
Yeah, and you said something that's so true, where it's not nobody gets rich off the first deal. Mm-hmm. It's that series of deals where you're slowly kind of snowballing it, where people really get that true wealth.
Absolutely, it's never just that one deal. Never get rich off one deal. You're going to have to keep on buying them. You know what I mean? Yeah. So absolutely. Yeah. You got to think of the bigger picture.
Yeah. So how have you, you still own those 2 properties, you still control them. Is that true?
Yeah. It was, in 2018, there was 7 properties, 7 apartment buildings I had. And then now let's drop down into 3. So it basically got cut in half. And what happened was, obviously, with some of the partners, right? Like I said before, earlier there was huge issues that arised, and it came down to me and my business partner being, once again, looking at the future, right? We're like, we don't want to even be associated anymore in these properties. We got to get out and move on so we can focus on other things, because we could have easily stayed on. But the issue was, as we're staying on and we tried, it's such a headache that when we're trying to focus on new things, it's just dragging. And then all of a sudden it was like this, we looked at the money and the income and everything. We're like, it's not worth it, right? We got to cut ties. We got to live and learn and just grow and move on, right? So right now it's 3 apartment buildings.
Gotcha. Okay. And have you done any deals where you're pulling out your money with a refi, or are you just strictly buying them and then just selling them and cashing out?
It's buying them and then buy and hold and then refi later on. Absolutely. So the buildings we have right now, there's tons of equity in them, but we don't want to refinance right now because we don't want to over leverage ourselves right now. Especially, in where our buildings are, if, some of the pipelines were to ever go through, or Andrew Scheer gets elected, everything's good with these pipelines. Oh, in Mooseman, that's where the TransCanada is going to be actually putting their main hub, is in Mooseman, Saskatchewan. And then we're going to refinance for sure, right? But if not, it's kind of like, well, you know what I mean? I mean, it's not scary, but we don't want to over leverage ourselves. And because obviously, we could remortgage, but right now, but at the end of the day, then we can pay back our investors. Everybody's happy. They're still making money. We're all making money, yada, yada, yada. But then something happens. It's like, ooh, you know what I mean? Then we're putting that money back in, right? So we really don't want to over leverage ourselves because we're still getting good cash flow right now. But absolutely, these have been more so long-term buy and hold. Haven't had the opportunity yet to have a building, where we fix and flip it almost, or buy it way undervalued, get a bunch of tenants in there, do a bunch of renos, and then get a refinance. Haven't done that yet. No.
Yeah. You'll
Except for
probably
our,
have to wait until the start of the next cycle for that.
yes,
Yeah.
exactly. I mean, we've done it with that, with our fix and flips. Like we've done that before. Absolutely. On a way smaller scale. You know what I mean? But as for the apartment buildings, no, I haven't.
Yeah. It's out there. Just wait.
Yes,
It's coming.
exactly. And I can't wait for it.
Yeah. So how has real estate really changed life? You were talking about you just want to travel, do some more traveling and stuff. How has it really impacted you?
Yeah, it's allowed me to do whatever I want, wherever I want. That's the biggest thing I wanted to do, right? And it's that's really it, because I mean, at the end of the day, I've always I never really traveled ever before, and even when I got those apartment buildings, it was still stationed in Saskatchewan, like stuck there almost. And then real estate, I realized you can do it wherever. It's the same, whether you're in the U.S., Costa Rica, Canada, Beijing, wherever you are. Real estate's all the same. How you structure it's the same thing. You don't even have to speak their language. You can buy properties, right? I was down in Costa Rica. We're gonna be working on projects down in Costa Rica. Half the staff didn't even, at the resort we're looking at, don't even speak English. It doesn't matter. I can still buy it. It's all the same. So it's allowed me to go wherever I want and purchase real estate. It's the same thing where, you can't do that in a lot of different businesses. Let's say, you have a goods and service, or you have like a t-shirt company, say. You can't just be like, oh, I'm going to pick up and open up a store over here and then open one up here. It's like, oh, who knows if they're going to like the clothing, if the country's going to, or the people there like that. Where with real estate, everybody needs a place to live. It doesn't matter where you're buying. It doesn't matter if a Canadian owns something in, let's say, China, and then the people are going to be like, oh, wait, this is owned by a Canadian. I'm not going to live there. No, right? So it allows you to go wherever. It's all the same worldwide for the most part. Obviously there's different logistic things, but the concept's the same. So now when I'm saying I love to travel and do all this, it's really just, I don't just travel to travel. I travel to buy. You know what I mean? I'm in Phoenix. We're in Phoenix right now. We've already picked up 12 luxury Airbnb properties, including a couple mansions. And then we're going to head on to California. And then later this year, like I was mentioning at the start, we're heading out to Belize. We're working on development out there. And then we'll go to Europe, then back to Canada, just go all over the place, pick up units and just, have some fun with it. And the best part is too, I mean, it's passive. Obviously you can get people in place to easily take up the active part of it. But at the end of the day, people, they pay rent and then you're done. You know what I mean? They pay rent on the first, you're done. Where if you own like a restaurant, say, you don't know how much you're making at the beginning of the month. With our 12 unit apartment buildings, for instance, I look at the rent roll and I see, oh, wow, we got 12 leases and they're all for a full year and they're each paying $1,400 a month. There we go. I know exactly, other than minor expenses, some people might not pay. There's always issues that come up. You really accurate on how much you're making, right? So it's really good in that sense.
For sure. So looking 10 years into the future, what's Tyler's lifestyle like 10 years from now?
It's funny because a lot of people are like, what about like you running around traveling? I don't want to do that for long. Yeah. I want to just, the next 5 years run around, experience the whole world, pick up places all over the world. And by the time 10 years, when I'm 32, I kind of was, actually, it's funny because at New Year's, we're doing a bunch of reflection and like all this other stuff and visioning and all that. So that 10-year goal was actually a beach house I can tell you exactly, a beach house in Miami, like massive beach house in Miami, beautiful yacht, like all that. I've got my own family, this and that, yada, yada, yada. And then that's it. I got places all over the world, but I'm more so stationed. You know what I mean? I'm not like running around like crazy. I see myself influencing a lot of people, speaking and just inspiring. And really my big thing is I love to help people and I love to be a leader. Let's put it that way. Ever since I was a kid, when I was playing hockey, I always loved to be like the team captain, to be like, lead the team, So like I really see myself walking into an office. I've got like hundreds of employees and I'm just like inspiring them, helping them make more money, make an impact on their life and just helping people out. That's for sure it.
Sounds like a plan.
Absolutely.
So Tyler, where can people find you if they want to learn more about you?
Instagram. So hit me up on Instagram at Tyler Hassman, TylerHassman. And then on Facebook, you can also search Tyler Hassman. And then you can also search up the Young Guns of Real Estate on Facebook. And you'll see on there, we have like our vlogs, our podcast, you name it, we got it on our freaking page. You can check that out. And then on my Instagram, you can also check out, I got links to all my other stuff. Absolutely. And I'm on LinkedIn. But to be honest, like I'm on LinkedIn just because like I'm on LinkedIn. I find it boring. I know I shouldn't say this, but like it's too businessy. I scroll on there and I'm like, I like to be on Instagram. I'm still that 22-year-old. I'm scrolling on Instagram looking at like travel influencers and like, girls and like funny videos and stuff rather than like scrolling on LinkedIn and it's talking about market trends, like, this and that, like and this and that. I mean, sometimes it's interesting, but for me, I'm more so the Instagram guy.
Hey, keep running and gunning. That's great.
Yes, absolutely.
So Tyler, just want to thank you so much for taking the time today to share your success with us.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, man. I really appreciate it.
You're very welcome. And to you, our viewers, I wish you well in your journey from purchase to profits. See you next time.